it is I, your Lord Octopussy, and I'm here to finally put together a series detailing how if I was in charge of the Dead by Daylight development team and I had complete creative reins or complete reins over the whole operation, how I would do an entire health update for Dead by Daylight, which basically almost covers absolutely everything in the game, barring like the store. So with that being said, this first video will cover a couple of quality of life and miscellaneous changes, a couple of universal balance, or 3 universal balance changes that affect both sides relatively equally, a way to reduce the grind of the game, a complete pass on all of the offerings, and eventually going down to a entire new progression system to replace basically the Blood Web. So with that being said, let's get started on the quality of life and other miscellaneous changes, and I'm going to start off really sort of easy, really small. Allow me to change the main menu music. So you'd have the default main menu music, and then if you participate in relevant events or even as event rewards, you can get the main music from them events as an option. And if you have bought a DLC from the respective platform store, or just happen to have every character from a chapter in-game, whether purchased through iridescent shards or oryx cells, it would also unlock basically the killer background music. This is mainly just because I am in love with most of Dead by Daylight's music, and I would love to be able to change what I hear on the main menu screen. The archive challenge system kind of needs a little bit of... I kind of like how it works. You get little challenges, so you got an entire tome, and then that tome is split up into 4 parts. I actually really like that, and I think if you're going at level, every available challenge in the chapter of the tome that you have selected would be active at once. And obviously you'd still have to claim the challenges to get more challenges. I just think this would help really with the grindier challenges, like, oh, repair 12 generators, oh, heal 10 health states. Like, you'd be able to do a good portion of these all in one game, rather than just basically throwing, especially a survivor, throwing the game to just do these challenges, especially ones like break 20 totems. I think that was one of them at one point. It should just all be active at once. It will really help basically make it feel less like a pain in the ass to go through. And for newer players, this is more for newer players, individual killer tutorials. So if you ever played Mortal Kombat, or Mortal Kombat 11 or Justice 2, these are the only 2 I know, they have individual tutorials to learn the basics of each character. And I think this should be a thing in Dead by Daylight, where killer comes out, or you got the base kills already, and whenever a killer comes out, it comes with a little mini tutorial to help you kind of roughly grasp what the power is and the intended use behind it. I just think it'd actually be really neat, especially for people that are first playing it, or just newer players in general. And along those lines of practicing and trying to get a hang of new different things, especially new killers, new perks, new perk combinations, is adding bots to custom. Now, bots have been recently put on the recent satisfaction survey. They've mentioned bots quite a few times, and I think it's a really good idea, at least for custom games. Putting your bots in custom games, whether you want to give them different difficulty level, different advanced levels of AI, which you can do in games like Call of Duty. For example, Call of Duty custom games you can fill with bots. I think this will just help newer players test out different combinations of perks, different killers, different, just all sorts of different things. I think an idea of having, if a player disconnects or crashes, they get replaced with an AI bot. And the bot, just retains the same cosmetics as the original player, but just has its name changed to Claudette Morrill, or, whatever the survivor's name is, and maybe put a 1 or a 2 as well, just in case there's more than 1 in the game. Or along the lines of, if a player prematurely disconnects or crashes, it's better to have one survivor that's kind of useless than having no survivor at all. If a survivor's just working on gens, even if it's not looping the killer effectively, it's still helping out a little bit. It may not be the best player, but at least isn't a complete loss for the other 3 players that play in the game. And along those lines, I would like a search bar. I just like a search bar for perks and add-ons and all that. Well, don't really need them for add-ons, but I suppose if you want to remain consistent, so offerings and all that sort of, and items, put in a little search bar, oh, I want a camping aid kit, oh, I want Beast of Prey for some reason, then you could do that. It would be more just like a quality of life sort of thing. And speaking of quality of life, perk loadouts, having a customizable, savable perk loadout. So each character you would have 2 available loadout slots, and you could gain an additional 1 by prestiging the character, which would make prestiging a bit more worth it. And I'm going to go into prestiging a little bit more later on when we get into the progression system that I have in mind, but I think it should be a nice little reward. Also, coming in from post-recording is another idea that I kind of had in my mind. I completely forgot to write it down, was the idea of being able to press tab in the middle of the game to be able to see, like, you know, a scoreboard. You know, you could keep track of everyone's scores. If you're in a survivor, you could see all your teammates' perks. You could see what item they're holding, what add-ons their item may be holding, the offering that they brought. And you'd be able to see the killer after the first chase has begun. You'll be able to see what the killer is on the scoreboard, but you wouldn't be able to see their, you know, their perks or add-ons, or their I suppose they're offering they're offering, because you'd be able to see it pre-screen. And you'd be able to see all their ping. That way you can actually blame the killer for having really bad ping, and you'd have proof. And obviously if you're killer, you wouldn't be able to see all the survivors' perks or items, but you'd be able to see the offerings that they bought, and obviously ping. And you'd be able to keep track of everyone's score, which I think is pretty neat. So yeah, back to the rest of the video. So now we move on to general balance changes. These are, like I said, kind of more universal-ish, or affects both sides balance changes. So for the first up, we have breakable walls. I think breakable walls should start broken, or at least unrepaired, right? So you see all these little board parts on the floor. When you, as a survivor, you'd have to spend 20 seconds to construct the wall, and after you've done constructed the wall on the floor, it just gets placed up. And once a wall is constructed, it creates a loud noise notification when you complete it. I think it would just help mitigate. It'd be more like kind of pre-dropping, because breakable walls right now kind of act like pre-dropped guard pallets in most cases, and I think that should not be the case. I think it should be a pre-dropped guard pallets that survivors have to go out of their way for to enhance the effectiveness of the loot. Of course, if they don't want to and they're comfortable with playing without the breakable walls, they don't have to waste time doing that, and the killer doesn't feel as stressed with the idea of, oh, do I break this wall, do I not? You know, takes decision making away a little bit from one side and puts it to the other, and kind of sort of evens itself out, I believe. Kind of speaking of maps, I don't think map layout should be randomly generated anymore. With things like loot money and that, I think that they should all have completely preset loadouts. With tiles, hook placements, generator placements, the main buildings like pallets or windows, spawns, exit gate spawns. I think these should all be completely preset, whilst the basement will still have its one of two locations selected, and additional chests that spawn outside of the basement, maybe building a shack, depending on what the map actually is. Any additional chests from there would be random, and totem spawns would also be completely random as well. I just think that the things that should be random will stay random, and the things that should be preset to allow people to get used to a map layout and allow a better balance of each map layout would probably be the best idea. So those are my general balance change ideas. And now we go on to the grind itself. This is one thing that almost everyone universally complains about. So first off, we have the challenges. I think the challenge system needs to be completely reworked to where you have two sets of dailies, right? You have one side as a survivor daily and the other side as a killer daily. And every day you get one, so up to a maximum of 3, and you can obviously delete one as you usually do. So you could theoretically have 6 dailies already stacked up. And also a nice system would be adding the weekly system, which is, I think, in the mobile version of the game, where you have a 1 survivor and 1 killer weekly challenge, which will reward you even more blood points. I think it would just be a nice way to encourage people to play different sides to maximize their blood point output. Speaking of which, prestiging, like I said, we've already had the extra loadout for prestiging, but I believe an extra benefit to prestiging is you gain an 11% extra blood point bonus at the end of the trial for each prestige level you have. So if you're prestige 1, you get 11% extra blood points, and if you're level 2 or prestige 2, you get 22% extra, and if you're prestige 3, you get 33% extra. Just a nice little thing on top. And for both sides, we'll add new blood point score events, basically just ripping the barbecue and chili and wiggle live forever score events and making a base kit. So for the new score event for killer, it's going to be called First Blood, and when you hook a survivor, you gain 20% more bonus blood points, or a maximum of 100% more blood points at the end of the trial, in which case, you know, you just kind of make barbecue and chili purely an R reading perk. And for the survivor side, you're going to get a selfless score event, and it's exactly the same whether you safely unhook, take a protection hit, or rescue a teammate, you gain 25% bonus blood points up to a maximum of 100% at the end of the trial. And for We're Gonna Live Forever, I'd make it so that you also gain, replace the current score event system with, you just get a 50% bonus points in the altruism category. So those are my grind changes, and now we're going to move on to offerings. Offerings have been offerings are either extremely good or they're extremely bad, and I don't think there's any middle place. Most people bring blood point offerings. All of the offerings are it's completely bloated. The offering pool is completely, especially the green offerings are completely bloated with map offerings. So map offerings are now in their own category, and they will cost 15,000 blood points each. This will be explained more in the progression changes. And map offerings are in the blue. If you've ever seen them, if you don't know, there's a unused category for rarity in DVD called the spectral category. This is the color we'll be using for map offerings. So yeah, a lot of offerings are being trimmed out, and some new offerings are being added to take its place. If you hear some terms that don't make a lot of sense now, they will do when we get to the progression system. So for common offerings, you have the hollow shell or sealed envelope. Grants 25% bonus blood points in all categories. Does not affect character experience. We have black tea or wooden chalice, which will grant you 10% bonus to character experience. Again, this will be going over on the progression system. The blueprint add-ons will remain exactly the same as they are before. For uncommon, you'll have a mixed flower sachet or a makeshift wreath, which grants 50% bonus blood points in all categories. Does not affect character experience. Universal will be a bound envelope, which grants 25% bonus blood points in all categories, and 10 iridescent shards to all players in the trial. Does not affect character experience. You have a milk tea or ceramic chalice, depending on killer or survivor. Grants 20% bonus to character experience, and you'll get the clay doll as the last uncommon, universal uncommon add-on, which grants 10% bonus character experience to all players in the trial, and 10 iridescent shards to all players in the trial. The oak memento mori. You no longer have the option to kill the last remaining survivor. Instead, you can kill up to one survivor who has progressed 2 hook stages by your hand during the next trial. This will be explained in the killer video, which should be coming out hopefully soon. Vigo's Shroud calms the entity to spawn the killer as far away from you and your team as possible. This will also be explained in the survivor video, which will be coming out after this one. Mixed Flowers or Devout Wraith in the rare category grants 75% bonus blood points in all categories. Does not affect character experience. Piece of Ghetto grants 50% bonus blood points in all categories and 15 iridescent shards to all players in the trial. Does not affect character experience. The Burdock Tea or Copper Chalice grants 30% bonus character experience, and the Thorn Doll grants 20% bonus character experience to all players in the trial and 15 iridescent shards to all players in the trial. And the Scratched Coin or Tarnished Coin will call upon the entity to reduce or increase number of chests by 2. Again, that's depending on whether you're killer or survivor. The Cypress Memento Mori, you no longer have the option to kill the last remaining survivor. Instead, you can kill up to 2 survivors who have progressed 2 hook stages by your hand during the next trial. And the Rotten Oak will remain exactly the same as it already is. Now onto the very rare category, we have Fragrant Mixed Flowers or an Ardent Wraith. Grants 100% bonus blood points in all categories. Does not affect character experience. Escape Cake or Survivor Pudding grants 75% bonus blood points in all categories and 20 iridescent shards to all players in the trial. Does not affect character experience. Lotus Leaf Tea or Bloodstone Chalice grants 40% bonus character experience. The Bone Doll will grant 30% bonus character experience and 20 iridescent shards to all players in the trial. The very rare Cut Coin or Polished Kind will call upon the entity to reduce or increase, depending on killer or survivor, the chances of items found in chests having add-ons by 44% or 11%, which I think is an interesting idea. So rather than just having a scaling chest offering, it actually does something kind of different. The Ivory Memento Mori will now instead grant you the option to kill up to 3 survivors who progress by 2 hook stages by hand during the next trial. The Shroud of Hiding will calm the entity to prevent you from leaving scratch marks and disturbing crows during the first 30 seconds of the trial, which is an idea I kind of like. It's like a kind of mini any means and kind of a mini calm spirit. The Petrified Oak for killer calms the entity to double the amount of hooks that spawn in the trial. And The very rare Putrid Oak for survivors calls upon the entity to weaken all the hooks in the trials. Hooks break for 30 seconds after being unhooked, does not stack. And now we move on to our ultra rare offerings. Bloody Party Streamers grants 100% bonus blood points in all categories and 25 iridescent shards to all players in the trial. Does not affect character experience, and the Flesh Doll grants 40% bonus character experience and 25 iridescent shards to all players in the trial. The Sacrificial Ward will call upon the entity to reject all map offerings. The Murky... I don't even know how you say it. Murky Regend? I don't know. This word. Increases the thickness of the dark mist around the main building and Killer Shack by 200%. Auras and the red stain from one side of the main building and Killer Shack fog cannot be seen from the other side. This is also a universal add-on, so both Killer and Survivor could bring this. The Clear Regent will clear all dark mist from outside of the main building and Killer Shack for the next trial. Again, it's a universal offering, both sides could use it. The ultra rare Black Ward or White Ward acts exactly the same as before, just the thing has been increased to ultra rare. The Iridescent Oak calls upon the entity to spawn all hooks in the trial broken for the first 60 seconds, does not stack, which is a Survivor ultra rare offering. And the next ultra rare offering for survivors is Vigo's Jar of Salty Lips, which increases the luck of all survivors in the trial by 9%. And it stacks. The luck has also been changed, this will be obviously discussed in the Survivor video. Iridescent Blueprints, which is a killer ultra rare offering, allows all potential basement locations to spawn extra basement spawn with chests. So most maps you'll have 2 basements if you bring this offering. I think it'll be really interesting. And finally, the Ebony Memento Mori does exactly the same thing now. You know how I've long should have killed the last remaining survivor. Instead, you can kill all survivors who have progressed by 2 hook stages by your hand during the next trial. And finally, we get onto map offerings. I'm not going to go over every single map offering, but essentially, they all do the exact opposite of what they do now. They are essentially your map ban, which people have been asking for a long while. So, Azeroth's Key, Grandma's Cookbook, Heart Locket, Shard Wedding Photograph, Crow's Eye, Jigsaw Piece, Dusty Noose, Destroyed Reality Key, the long-forgotten Hawkins National Laboratory ID, Shattered Glasses, Macmillan's Phalanx Bone, Damaged Photo, RPD Badge, The Last Mask, Mary's Letter, Pied Piper, and Yamaoka Family Crest will all remove their respected realms from rotation. This is why I not only upped the price, but I also changed the rarity, because they can't bloat the current offering rarity. So, progression. The part I've actually been looking most forward to talking about. Perk tiers are completely gone. There's only 1 tier of perk, and the Blood Web is completely gone. And we're going to dub this new progression system the Blood Board. So the Blood Board automatically just has a full list of all perks, add-ons, items, offerings, basically available, or not available to buy, but it's all there. You can see a big list of them with their own tabs. I have a concept picture on screen. I don't know if I actually have the original image saved, or if I have to get a previous screen grab from a rough thing that I sent on Discord. As you can see, the prices have also been changed. Common items are now 5,000 blood points, uncommon items are 6,000 blood points, rare items are 7,000 blood points, very rare items are 8,000 blood points, ultra rare items are 10,000 blood points, map offerings are 15,000 blood points, and perks are 20,000 blood points, and teachables are 40,000, or teachable unlocks are 40,000 blood points. So each character will have a level, and your level is based off of playtime. You gain XP, basically directly translated from your post-game score. This is not including all your score rewards or blood point rewards post-game. So you can see why I wrote doesn't affect character experience. So your level kind of dictates what you can and cannot buy. I'll go into that a bit more later. Your level no longer counts to your perk slot limit. So essentially every time you buy a new killer, when a new killer comes out or a new survivor, you can immediately go for the Adept, because you'd have the strongest version of their base perks. All their base perks would be, all their teachables would already be unlocked at the highest level, and you'd also have all 4 perk slots ready to use. And as a side note, you can immediately buy perks and map offerings no matter what level you are. Your teachables will be unlocked at levels 20, 30, and 40 instead, so you should hopefully have enough blood points by the time you get there to just unlock them. But if you wish to skip the leveling process, you can use 8,000 iridescent shards to buy the teachables. Level scaling kind of goes as follows. From levels 1 to 10, it requires 20,000 XP per level. From levels 10 to 20, it requires 30,000 XP. From levels 20 to 30, it requires 40,000 XP per level. From levels 30 to 40, it requires 50,000 XP per level. And when you go from 40 to 50, it requires 60,000 XP per level. And once you've reached level 50, you can prestige. And like I said, the prestige rewards are a bit more indirect, but also a bit nicer on here. So, like I said, your level your character level determines what rarity of items and add-ons and offerings you can purchase. So I'll have the thing up on screen now. I'll put on a whole chart. But essentially, unless you have, when you're not prestiged, if you're under level 10, you can only buy perks and map offerings. Once you're up to level 10, you could buy up to common items, and once you're up to 20, you could start buying uncommon items. Level 30, you could buy rare. Level 40, you could go up to very rare, and once you're at level 50, you could buy to ultra rare. And these requirements go down by 10 levels per prestige level. This, I think, would be a much better system, in my opinion, for newer players who may not necessarily have the time to just randomly grab all the blood points and spend 100 million blood points, basically make the game playable. And that was everything for the general changes that affect both sides of the game. The next video will be going over survivors. This includes a lot of survivor base kit changes, item changes, perk changes. That's basically it. And then after that, we'll be going over killer. And killer, there'll be like 28 videos uploaded. Because for the killer videos, I'll be going over the same. I'll be going over base kit killer and killer perks. And then I'll be uploading a video each for how I would pass over each killer, whether I fully rework them, or whether I just make a few changes here and there, or just give them a straight add-on pass. So I hope you enjoyed, and I hope to see you next time. Goodbye.